everybody. Thank you all for coming so much. We're trying to get the air conditioning going in here. It didn't work out by this point, but the talk is not going to be that long, and then everybody can sort of, venture outside and get some of that good fresh air. So, first of all, I would like to welcome everybody to the October 2018 Sandwiching and History Tour of the Argenta Rock Island Depot. My name is David Collins. I'm a graduate assistant with the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program. I'd really like to make a couple of important particular mentions. First, the staff of the North Little Rock History Commission, Sandra Smith and Carrie Bradburn. Could y'all raise your hands? Carrie's out there, I guess being Carrie. But they have helped me quite a bit in preparing for this tour. So I would really like to extend my appreciation to them. Also, we have Linda Robinson here, who is the alderman from Ward 2, which is this area. So thank you so much for coming. It means a lot to us. And finally, Michael Hiblin, who you may know from KUAR. He is here recording for his podcast, but he also has a book on the railroad that started this whole depot called the Rock Island Railroad in Arkansas. So thank you for coming. Would you like to say a couple of things? Sure.
Well, it's great to be in this depot. I have wanted to come in this depot for years and never had the chance. So it's great to actually get a chance to walk around. My introduction to the Rock Island Railroad came in the fall of 1979. I was bused to Redwood Elementary School, which is just a few blocks that way. The Rock Island went directly in front of my school, and it was the following March in 1980 that the Rock Island was ordered shut down. It had been bankrupt for 5 years, but finally a judge ordered it shut down. And for me, I was in second grade, to suddenly see the train stop going by, to see grass growing through the rails, really struck a nerve with me, and it's what really started a lifetime of interest in the Rock Island. And in particular, I've been interviewing former employees of the Rock Island. But last week, I've been helping with an effort to preserve the Perry Depot. Perry's about 45 miles or so west of Little Rock, a wooden depot built in 1918. And unfortunately, the railroad that operates that stretch of track wanted it torn down so that they could build a new locomotive servicing shed there. I've been working with the Perry County Historical and Genealogical Society to raise money. We've also gotten the city to donate a piece of land. And last week we actually got a house mover out there, lifted it up, moved it off the railroad's property, and we hope to, maybe in about a month, get a foundation built. It's an adjacent piece of land where the depot is going to be placed. It will still be along railroad tracks, so we're working to ensure its historic integrity. We've been working with Preserve Arkansas, Department of Arkansas Heritage, to get advice about how to do this in the best way possible so that hopefully this can still qualify for the National Register of Historic Places. But the significance of these kind of depots just can't be overstated. I mean, they really were the lifeline for the towns. And when you think about the numbers of people that came through here, and back before you had the interstate system and airplanes, these kind of depots really were the key places in every town. So with that, happy to take any questions later.
So we'll just do it this way. All right. So first, I'd like to preface this by acknowledging that much of this talk is is adapted from the original script by Elizabeth James that was created in 2007. So really appreciate her for that. But on behalf of AHPP, who we deal with Arkansas registered nominations quite a bit, and this building is listed on the register, so we'll get to that. But I'd really like to preface this by saying that we're very thrilled that you're here for this one, especially because of what Mr. Hitler said, which is that this is a truly unique site, because this is the only surviving depot from North Little Rock's railroad beginnings. The importance of the rails, just like you said, is in the development of North Little Rock, just really can't be understated, and this building is kind of a time capsule for that, at least in this area. So, a little bit of the history. As Little Rock was developing on the south side of the river in the early 19th century, the north side was literally awash. The area hosted a few attempts at early settlements that often flooded and became uninhabitable, including the Cantaline, which washed out in the 1840 flood. Of course, to Little Rock, which we'll see Little Rock is kind of, hopefully we won't paint Little Rock as like the enemy here, but to Little Rock, the area was simply known as opposite Little Rock on all the maps. So, shows you what they thought of this area back then, I guess, I don't know. They've changed though, they've changed. The Civil War had brought rail activity to the shores of the river by 1862, and the area became an access point for the Memphis and Little Rock Railroad. When the Union Army assumed control of the railroad in 1863, a small town called Huntersville had developed around what is now the Junction Bridge. This town consisted of a couple of ferry landings, a few houses, and some small shops. After the war ended in 1865, however, the area of Huntersville grew to include all of the amenities of the proper town. So you had railroad shops, hotels, saloons, and eventually a post office. That wouldn't come until the 1870s, but you get the idea. In 1866, the children of Little Rock politician and silver mine manager Thomas Newton platted a new town called Argenta, which was to replace Huntersville. They named it Argenta as a nod to their father's involvement in the silver mines of present-day Kellogg Acres, because Argenta is short form for the Latin argentum, which means silver. Despite an attempt by the town in 1890 to incorporate as a city, Little Rock made a legislative move to annex it as the 8th ward of the capital city, which it remained until 1904. The city of North Little Rock, at the time north of 15th Street, was incorporated in 1901. After some political maneuvering by William Fawcett, which I'm sure many of you have heard that name if you've studied any of the history of North Little Rock, Argenta was able to merge with North Little Rock in 1903 by popular vote. Little Rock didn't really like that, the city of Little Rock, so they challenged it in court and lost, and the merger was upheld in 1904, and the city was expanded to include this area of Argenta up to the river. So, in 1906, North Little Rock officially changed its name to Argenta, which is why you see it inscribed on the north dormer of this building. The city would not become North Little Rock again until 1917, which was 4 years after this building was constructed. But why was it constructed? So that's what we want to get into. So throughout all of this development, the railroad industry grew more and more prominent in the Argenta area. Just to the south of this spot, a rail terminal and roundhouse were developed during the Civil War. You can see pictures of those at the North Little Rock Heritage Center. There are also plenty on their online exhibits as well. So by the time the war was over, in addition to the Memphis and Little Rock, this was the terminus for lines from two other railroads, the Cairo and Fulton and the Little Rock and Fort Smith. Again, if you want to know more about how those companies developed, feel free to observe this panel, which was graciously loaned by the North Little Rock History Commission and Heritage Center on Main Street. And it was painstakingly researched by Kerry Bradburn. And when I say painstakingly, he went through every little detail. So throughout the rest of the 19th century, 3 rail bridges were constructed across the river, beginning with the Barron Cross Bridge in 1873. The Valley Route Bridge was built in 1884, and in 1899 a bridge was built by the Choctaw and Memphis Railroad, which in 1904 became the Chicago, Rock Island Pacific Railroad, the company that would ultimately oversee the construction of this depot. increase their acquisitions and access points in the area. Their influence on the workforce and other industries in Argenta became crucial. Moving quarried rock, timber, and crops to larger markets became much easier as the rails began to access the likes of St. Louis, Texas, and Chicago. Some jobs in the railroad shops were filled by African Americans who comprised the majority of the population of the North Side by 1870. European immigrants also found work in the shops during the late 19th century as they began to move in after 1870. This is the impetus for much of the civil and commercial development in Argenta. So, like Mr. Hibland said, the railroad really started, all the development of North Little Rock. So, ultimately, the railroads came to dominate the job market in the area well into the 20th century. Though railroads helped to build Argenta, Little Rock was still a polarizing force on the other side of the river. Most of the passenger stations at the turn of the century were centered in Little Rock. I think there was one on the north side. So if you wanted to go somewhere as a passenger, you had to first board to Little Rock, then depart from Little Rock. So in 1910, Little Rock also took a great deal more of Argenta's rail traffic away when the Rock Island Railroad moved their maintenance facilities from Argenta to Little Rock. At the time, leaders in North Little Rock were furious at this change, and the construction of this depot was thought to be a concession by the Rock Island Company to ease the tension. The move caused a negative impact on the economy in Argenta with large loss of jobs. However, when this depot was built in 1913, it established Argenta as a stop between Little Rock and Memphis and gave residents a cheaper access point than having to first cross the river. Local rails around the city were also improved and linked to the depot by 1914, which only increased the amount of passenger activity. The depot also helped to develop Argenta as an active military post heading into World War I. Argenta was already selected as the location for Fort Logan H. Routes in 1893, which is up by Pulaski Tech right now, partly because the area was so easy to access by train. Military activity in the area exploded with the onset of World War I, and the establishment of Camp Pike at Argenta, that only increased that. So a little over 40,000 men arrived at Camp Pike at its opening in August of 1917. As soldiers filtered in and out of the depot, going to and from camp in preparation for war, they scrawled their sentiments on the walls of the depot. One wrote, "We'll give the Kaiser hell, boys," in all capital letters, and circled it for emphasis. So some of the walls, under the coverings, in the bathrooms and things like that, have some actual written material from some of those soldiers. So 1917 was also the year that Argenta changed its name back to North Little Rock. The depot remained actively in use through World War II, though passenger traffic was halted shortly after. It was essentially abandoned by the 1960s, the building, that is, as road traffic had largely replaced the rails. By 1967, Rock Island and Missouri Pacific lines were both trying to eliminate their passenger services in Arkansas altogether. This was due to the closure of Railway Postal Service, which would have cost Rock Island over $1 million in business. The Argenta depot itself remained in decent shape until Rock Island Railroad went under. Mr. Hibland told me that they officially filed for bankruptcy in 1975 and were officially out of business by 1980. So, and Missouri Pacific assumed control of the building. As early as 1985, the city of North Little Rock was looking into possibly researching the depot, purchasing the depot from Missouri Pacific and rehabilitating it for community use. At this time, the roof was in very bad shape, as many of the tiles had broken or sloughed off, and the fixture of the west side gable had crumbled. So, west side over here, part of the circular feature on the gable had crumbled off completely. Let's see where I'm at. Still, the building itself was sound, as you can see. It could probably last another 100 years with a good use. So the city contemplated using it for a 24-hour ambulance facility or a community development agency. Ultimately, the projects never materialized, and the building continued to deteriorate. The depot was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1989, but was still unused until 1998, when North Little Rock History Commission and the City of North Little Rock teamed up to restore the building. In the early 2000s, an after-school activities program called Our Club, which was subsidized by the city, used the building for its operations. Most recently, beginning in 2013, it was occupied by LaFell Jackson's organization, ROCAN, which stands for Reaching Our Children in Neighborhoods. And that was an after-school program facility also, but it's now vacant and in the care of the city of North Little Rock. And they are currently trying to find a good use for it. So if you are passionate about this kind of history, then possibly you could team up and talk to Sandra. She would probably love any ideas, any help that she could get in what this possibly could be for the future. So now, since Argenta Rock Island Depot was nominated in the register as an example of significant architecture, I think it's important to understand the design of the building, at least a little bit of the history of it. So the depot was built in 1913 in the Mediterranean style, specifically exhibiting many traits of the Spanish Revival style. This style was popular in the United States between 1910 and 1940, so this is actually kind of early. This building was early in that tradition in this country, at least. So telltale signs of this style include the barrel tile roof, often green or terracotta, stucco walls, arch windows, wrought iron, ornate balusters, often twisted, bell towers, we see hip roofs, shaped parapets, and incorporation of tile on exterior and interior walls. This building has a barrel tile roof, as you can see, and shaped gables that lend to the style of the building. The building was designed by Rock Island Railroad staff's architect A.T. Hawk, which is a reason why it matches so many other depots in the country and the state. But this design, the design of this building was used in places other than Argenta over a period of a few years. Depots matching this design were also built in Lonoke and Mansfield. Is there anybody in here from Lonoke?
Right here.
Very nice. So you know. But yeah, there's a very similar depot in Lonoke that was built just the year before, 1912, and has been restored. So
Our air conditioner world.
Right. So not only does Little Rock like North Little Rock sometimes, but now Lonoke's doing it. So but thank you for being here. We appreciate that. So typical of depot design, on this building we find large cargo doors on either side for loading and unloading the trains, as you can see in the freight areas. There's also a platform built on the track side. So just a real quick note about the restoration of the building, because this building has been restored, but it's been about 20 years. So in 1998, the city of North Little Rock received $189,742 in federal funding through the ISTIA program, which stands for Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act, if you needed to know that. This act allowed for federal money to go toward transportation enhancements, such as improving the visual experience of transportation, and has helped to fund many historic preservation projects, such as this one. The ISTIA money was paired with $82,958 invested by the city of North Little Rock for a total of $272,700 to restore the depot. Restoration of the depot was a monumental job. The priority was removing the roof and rebuilding it, as it was in grave danger of collapse. The clay tiles were removed from the roof, and many of them were reserved to be reinstalled, so the tiles, many of them are original. It took 4 months to find enough matching clay tiles to proceed with replacing the roof. A new roof was built, and the clay tiles were replaced. Additionally, damage to the brick was repaired on the exterior, including the top of the gable on the west end of the building, which again had collapsed. All of the building's windows and doors had to be replaced. The original stencil used to apply the Rock Island logo to the exterior of the building was located by the Rock Island Railroad Club, and it was repainted on the east side. You can kind of see it faded a little bit on the east side of the building as originally intended. Additionally, the restoration involved replacing the electrical, plumbing, and HVAC systems, replacing decayed wood trim, repainting the speaking of the interior, the last thing that I'm going to talk about is the interior, and that is the depot was built during an era of segregation, of course, and it's important to remember the design of this building reflects that. So it has two separate entrances, as you can see here and back here, two separate waiting rooms here, the next big room over. So it also has two bathrooms and two separate ticket rooms. During the original restoration, the larger waiting room was restored for use by the Sherman Park Community Development Corporation. This included grinding marble dust back into the terrazzo floors and polishing it back to a shine. The wall between the separate bathrooms was knocked out to provide additional space for accessibility. The smaller middle waiting room for black passengers was not restored as part of the original project, which is a shame. So there is a basement. Sorry, we'll get to that in a second. But there is a basement with an entrance in the freight area of the west side as well. But the freight area is the very, very back portion on the west side there. So in the west waiting room, in relief, you can see it sort of propped up against the back wall there, is a mosaic made by children who attended our club after school program. Much of the mosaic includes items that have surfaced in the soil around here and tells some of the history of the neighborhood. So if you'd like to view that, that would be very cool as well. The mosaic depicts the Victory Garden, which was originally a piece of land at the corner of Smothers and Beach Streets, where the community shared a garden when goods were scarce during World War II. The mosaic also depicts the Arkansas River in blue tiles, a sun of yellow tiles, a building of red tiles, railroad tracks made of actual railroad spikes, and the ground represented by objects found in the actual ground. So the 3 by 4 foot mural was created by children in a program and overseen by local artist Gene Walker. The city and North Little Rock History Commission are currently hoping to find a use for the building in order to continue its preservation. If you'd like to know more about the railroads in North Little Rock, the depot, or anything related to the Argenta area, I would refer you to Carrie Bradburn, who is here, and also to Mr. Hidlin. I'm sure he'd be willing to talk to you. And I really strongly suggest that you visit your North Little Rock Heritage Center there on Main Street. They've got a really great exhibit, including this panel. And so, that will help you get an even better understanding more than this brief talk. So, this concludes this month's talk. Please feel free to visit the inside of the facility, the outside. We do ask that you don't, if you go in the freight area, the lights are not turned on in there. So be careful, but also try not to get into the basement, where the basement area is. So also be sure to join us for the November 5th for the Sandwiching and History Tour of the Mary H. Matthews Lestrade House, located at 5021 Maryland Avenue in Little Rock. And thank you for coming. Very appreciative.